Yeah, I was thinking about a few different pieces of advice. I think there are a couple that are more simple, or I don't want to say simple, but I think there are a couple that maybe are more direct and more immediate. Things like even just down to something that we've been doing over the past few months is making sure that all of our language, all of our mission, vision, values, even our titles as folks in organizational leadership and other staff members, volunteer staff members, making sure that all of those titles are all accessible and that young people could understand those. And so I think I guess that's also another way that Youth Voice has really impacted our program, but making sure that everything that we do, not even just the programming, but also the way that we talk about things is being done in a way that a young person could also understand. And so I think that's an initial step is like looking at your mission and your vision and even your policies and procedures and things like that and seeing, is this really jargony? Is this really complex language that one of my youth in my program wouldn't be able to understand? And why is it that way? Why does it have to be that way? And looking through some of those things. I think as far as more of the project-based advice, I would say is just getting really good adult facilitators. And when I say good, I mean folks that are again committed to the unlearning and taking action against adultism. But then also folks who are enthusiastic, folks who are going to show up and be consistent. Because I think there are a lot of great volunteers out there, but making sure that these adult facilitators who are going to be working very closely with the young people on a project are really reliable and consistent and will show up and be there to plan alongside the youth and then also help them process afterwards and make sure that that's again a consistent presence. And then again, I think I'm like really driving the nail in or whatever the expression is, but just doing your own unpacking of your own values and your feelings and your experiences, because I think I would argue that at some point, whether we remember it or not, as young people, most of us were made to feel at some point less than or not as valid or not as intelligent or important or competent as an adult, whether that was a teacher who told us that, a parent, or a coach, or whatever that was. And if we're not processing that, then we carry that with us and project our own insecurities onto the young people that we're working with. And we obviously don't want to do that. So resources out there, doing reading, talking with other adults, talking up with your friends or your colleagues or whoever about these things and about the ways in which you could potentially grow to be a more youth-centered youth practitioner, I think is really, really important. And then one more piece of advice actually is if you're just starting off, I would say try to build it into your program even in small ways, because again, I think beginning a program with youth voice and YPAR and things like that built in and core and integrated into your program makes it much easier down the line to continue doing it. And it also, again, to my point around like living out your values, makes it kind of less of a just like a tacked on thing that you think about years later and do in maybe a haphazard way. But if you're building it in as you're starting, I think that makes it even better as a result. If you're already a program, again, maybe going back and doing those other things that I said around getting good adult facilitators and doing extra work around breaking down some of those biases. But yeah, and one last piece of advice, I would say build in extra time into your timelines. I think that was a huge thing for us is, and me especially, I think I work in a very specific way. And I think a lot of the time with Youth Voice or YPAR, it's important to build extra time into your timelines again for all of that scaffolding and processing that needs to take place in order for it to be a meaningful experience for the young person. So those are my pieces of advice.